Hello, everybody. I'm Jesse Waters, along with Lisa Booth, Juan Williams, Dana Perino, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 9 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. Another night of big breaking news in Washington. A White House shakeup after reports of major infighting in recent days. President Trump has ousted his chief of staff, Reince Priebus, and replaced him with Homeland Security Chief General John Kelly. The announcement comes a week after the president appointed a new communications director, Anthony Scaramucci, who accused Priebus of trying to keep him out of the West Wing in a fiery interview. Here was the president on his decision earlier.
Reince is a good man. John Kelly will do a fantastic job. General Kelly has been a star, done an incredible job thus far, respected by everybody. A great, great American. Reince Priebus, a good man. Thank you very much.
More details now from Chief National Correspondent Ed Henry.
Jesse, Reince Priebus gets some credit for helping elect President Trump, providing critical ground game for the campaign, but has not had anywhere near those kinds of results in terms of major legislation. And it's worth noting he's out mere hours after a major failure on health care. In some ways, the president was never fully in sync with his chief of staff, dating back to Priebus's days as chairman of the RNC, when he urged the GOP nominee in October to get out of the race because of that Access Hollywood tape. The president sometimes tweaked Priebus about that in private, and the tension only grew after the arrival of Anthony Scaramucci 1 week ago today over the strong objections of Priebus and his RNC loyalist, Sean Spicer, who quickly resigned. Interesting, if Priebus did not see the handwriting on the wall, then it was written in giant letters last night when we learned of that Scaramucci interview with the New Yorker magazine, in which he savaged Priebus by calling him, among other things, a bleeping paranoid schizophrenic. Awkward, then, that Priebus and Scaramucci were on Air Force One together today before this was revealed. And when the news broke as the president was getting off the plane, Priebus's vehicle suddenly left the motorcade. Got a bit awkward. Priebus is now saying he secretly resigned yesterday, and tonight he put out a statement that said that it was one of the greatest honors of his life to serve under the president. And then he told our own Sean Hannity this.
I think actually going a different direction, hitting a reset button is a good thing. And the president did that. And so I think he's happy. I got to tell you, although it's always a little mixed when things like this happen, I generally feel pretty good.
He will be succeeded by General John Kelly, who had Washington experience before serving in this cabinet. He ran legislative affairs for the Marine Commandant, and he was a senior military aide to 2 secretaries of defense. Kelly saying, quote, "I have been fortunate to have served my country for more than 45 years, first as a Marine and then as the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. I'm honored to be asked to serve as the Chief of Staff to the President of the United States." The key is we're being told tonight that General Kelly has been empowered to control the flow of people and paper in and out of the Oval Office. He starts Monday, when there will be a cabinet meeting as well to reboot things in the administration. Jesse, guys.
Ed, thanks very much. So Ed touches on something interesting. Reince did a fantastic job leading the RNC. I mean, really brought them back from oblivion, raised a ton of money, helped get Donald Trump elected. But as chief of staff, didn't really deliver on Obamacare repeal, couldn't stop the leaks, was involved in helping Mueller be the special prosecutor. Do you believe he deserved to be ousted?
Well, I think on the other hand, it's funny because just last week, as the White House entered into its 6-month anniversary or mark, they were basically beating the drum saying, look at how great we've done. The president has done more than any president in the history of the United States. And look at all these amazing things. So, I mean, I think that if you're Reince Priebus, you could look at it both ways, right? And I do think that the Obamacare thing is right. Probably something where, and even apparently he even said that was like kind of an internal marker for him. Mm-hmm. The fact that he did not have the full backing of the president, nor did he have then, because of that, the full confidence of the staff,
right,
nor the cabinet, I would imagine, then he was basically not able to function and do his job. And the best thing, I guess, for everybody is for him to move on. I think the selection of General John Kelly is really good for all sorts of reasons that we can talk about here, the chain of command, public servant. He has the respect of the president. But also, this is a White House that is about to, is facing, but will increasingly face very hostile regimes. North Korea today testing another missile, possibly an ICBM. You have Iran and all of this, the idea, this possibility that they sent up a satellite into space. That is new. And also, he used to be Southern Command and knows a lot about things in South America, and Venezuela is heating up. So Not that he needs another national security advisor, but the fact that the chief of staff now has great command of those issues is really good.
It seems like everybody believes that Kelly's an excellent choice. Greg, Trump's firing more people at the White House than he did on The Apprentice. That may have worked on The Apprentice, worked in real estate. It's definitely worked in the primaries and the general election. He cut a lot of people loose. Is it working now at this point?
Well, the good news is Spicer and Reince can now do Dancing with the Stars as a pair.
Yeah.
So I think that's beautiful. And I think it's a nice twist on this kind of firing is that Hannity now does all of the exit interviews, which is really good. I do think, you know, Donald Trump does remind me of somebody. He reminds me of President Obama. He had 5 chiefs of staffs. He had 3 chief of staffs in under 3 years. The point is, I looked that up on Wikipedia because I don't really remember. I don't remember his chief of staffs. I don't even care.
I just remember Ron.
Yeah, I remember well because
he spoke like Scaramucci.
and also yes, it's true. And he was a ballet dancer. But I mean, you know, the
Did
thing
you
is,
look at the Wikipedia for that too?
I always do. But my point is, people talking about White House staffing changes are like guys talking about fantasy football trades. If you're not that into it, and we do this for a living,
right,
so we have to be kind of into it. But I don't think anybody's going to care about this. This is a guy who you know, treats staffing the way he always does. If he uses you until he uses you, he's a difficult boss. And difficult bosses are hard to read until they decide that they don't want you around. And then he does this thing where it's like he doesn't fire you. It's like a guy in a relationship who wants to get out of it, so he'd prefer if you dumped him. So he just stops talking to you. And then after a while,
he's a total jerk.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's normal. And the happiest person in D.C. is Scaramucci because you know, his language was saltier than a sweaty pretzel. And that's all we were talking about. And now we're talking about this.
Now I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Juan, what do the Democrats think of Kelly coming in? Because he's really going to institute a lot more discipline, has a lot more authority, is going to control the access to the president. How do you guys take this?
Well, I don't know. I'm not speaking for Democrats, but I'll tell you how I see it. I mean, to me, I don't think it makes much difference because I think President Trump's in charge and he seems to enjoy the chaos. And don't forget, a lot of this, the things that you were talking about, Jesse, like controlling the flow of people into the Oval Office, how are you going to tell his son-in-law, president's son-in-law, you can't go in there? How are you going to tell his daughter, hey, you're not right?
They have open access.
They have open access. You can't fire them. So they're operating in their own sphere, even though they're in the White House.
Right.
And then, and I think, Greg, this is the big news to me. I mean, there's a reason it's not just like any other president switching a chief of staff. This has been a week of seismic feuding, I mean, to the point of dysfunction in the White House. I mean, and think about the consequences of it. I think this business about, oh, healthcare fails, so Priebus is out. You must have missed all that happened the rest of the time because it's been fireworks. I mean, just this week, Sessions has said, I'm not leaving. If you want to fire me, this goes back to what Greg said. If you want to fire me, but I'm not going anywhere despite all your tweets. You think about the Pentagon saying to him on the transgender front, we'll do a study, but we're not banning transgender people like you want. And then, of course, you have the whole business with the Boy Scouts and the Boy Scouts having to put out an apology. It's been a terrifically turbulent week. And the Scaramucci...
Oh, wait, you forgot there's a new press secretary, too.
Yeah. And the Scaramucci stuff, it was out of control. I wish Greg had been here for that.
I
was in spirit.
In spirit.
Yes.
What about you, Lisa?
I was drunk.
Oh, I'm actually disappointed that Secretary Kelly is leaving that post. I just thought he was such a perfect pick for Homeland Security Secretary. As Dana mentioned, former command of the Southern Command, having served in Central America as well as South America, also having served in Iraq. I just thought he was so perfect for that job. So I'm actually really disappointed for him to leave that post. And what I do worry about, as Greg mentioned, the turnover that we saw under President Obama. We've seen a lot of turnover under President Trump, and I certainly hope that doesn't happen to someone who has so dutifully served this country for 45 years. But look, I mean, I think the writing was on the wall for Priebus, with Scaramucci being brought in and Sean Spicer being pushed out. I think President Trump felt like the establishment wing of the Republican Party was never with him. I think he associates Priebus and Spicer with that wing of the party. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some more firings.
Let's listen to what Ryan said about the exit. Roll the tape.
I'm going to be on Team Trump all the time. I'll always be out there trying to help the president advance his goals, support him as a friend, too. And that's the other part of the job that people don't realize. You actually become friends you know, when you go through thick and thin together, you get to know people really well. And he's a good man. And I was honored to be able to serve him.
Rice is definitely taking a classy way out there, and you can see that full interview 10 p.m. Eastern on Hannity. Lisa touched on this for a little bit. So Trump seems to be clearing out the political people, the RNC people. He's bringing in military people. He's bringing in the money men. He feels very comfortable around the brass, around the billionaires or the millionaires. What do you think that says about Trump?
I'm not sure.
And his new direction.
Well, I think that they still have plenty of competition for ideas in the White House, because you have the National Economic Council that is in one area. You have Steve Bannon's shop. Kellyanne Conway is working on to fulfill her duties, and then you've got McMaster and those guys at the National Security Council. I think what's really interesting is what's about to happen. I'm going to go out and say this. I think that this was all set up for a few weeks because the president has been so upset about Jeff Sessions and his recusal in the Russia investigation, that the Republicans and conservatives that came to Jeff Sessions' defense this week all said, but he's doing the best on the issue we care about the most, and that is immigration. Well, where can Jeff Sessions do even more on immigration as the Secretary of Homeland Security? So I think that what they're going to try to do is
chess
move
and everyone else
Sessions over to DHS, and then how can the conservatives complain? And then you have a new AG, he thinks, can then fire Mueller.
Wow, you heard it here first.
So wait. Trump is playing Yahtzee and everybody else is playing Boggle.
Hungry hippos.
Can I add, but you asked what you asked. I think that there's also something about Donald Trump's past that plays a role in his present. And that is that he went to a New York military academy because he was getting into some fights and some scrapes. And what changed him was a military academy. So I think that a major influence in his life is a general, is somebody that gives you order and discipline and routine. And hopefully maybe that will work, because it wouldn't hurt him to have a little bit more control over some of the things. I just don't know if that's possible.
He walked all over Priebus from what we hear.
Well, it's also interesting, too, because one of the big knocks against President Trump during the election was that he wouldn't take the advice of counsel, that he wouldn't listen to his advisors. But what we have seen, as you mentioned, he has surrounded himself with a lot of brass, whether people who are CEOs of Exxon or generals, people that have served, people that have run something and run something successfully. And so I find that to be very interesting, because it actually turned out to be the exact opposite in terms of him surrounding himself with people that are very accomplished, that can do the job on their own, and to some degree has allowed them to do that role.
Well,
Last word.
I just want to pick up on what Dana was talking about with the possible shuffling of chairs, because I don't think the bloodletting is over. There's every indication coming out of Washington that Rex Tillerson's not happy at state and looking the other way. And not only that, that the H.R. McMaster, National Security Advisor, not plugged in on this business about what was going to be a ban on transgender individuals and the questions about how the national security shop is functioning. You take that with the idea that Steve Bannon is just kind of drifting in the wind, because gosh, Scaramucci really said awful things about physically impossible acts that he was committing.
It's not physically impossible.
Well, I'll leave that to you, my friend. But I will say this, that Bannon can't be in a good place with Scaramucci there, and McMaster, and what you see now with Kelly coming in to run the shop. But I will say this about Kelly being there. I think there's a great deal of worry right now in the intelligence community in this country as to what happens in a crisis. Is the White House dysfunction mean that we really won't be able to handle it? And hopefully Kelly will reassure some people.
And there could be a crisis around the corner with North Korea. All right, President Trump heaped a lot of praise on his new chief of staff while discussing his administration's efforts to combat MS-13, the violent street gang he's vowing to destroy. Up next.
Today, President Trump addressed an audience of law enforcement officers about his administration's efforts to combat the violent street gang MS-13. He delivered the remarks in Long Island, New York, where the transnational gang has a strong foothold.
We're going to destroy the vile criminal cartel MS-13 and many other gangs. But MS-13 is particularly violent. They don't like shooting people because it's too quick. It's too fast. They kidnap, they extort, they rape, and they rob. They prey on children. They shouldn't be here. I have a simple message today for every gang member and criminal alien that are threatening so violently our people. We will find you, we will arrest you, we will jail you, and we will deport you.
Earlier tonight, Martha McCallum on The Story interviewed Evelyn Rodriguez, who was the mother of a 16-year-old Kayla Cuevas, who was killed by MS-13. And she and the father were willing to come in and share part of their story. And I think that this is important because it gives voice to what President Trump is talking about. Let's take a listen.
I knew they existed. I knew they were within the school. I just didn't know how bad it was. Me and my daughter had an open relationship. She told me everything. When there was a problem, I immediately contacted the school, had a meeting with that. Again, they will take care of it, and it wasn't.
And so then you have a 16-year-old girl and many, many others all across the country, in particular Long Island, Jesse. You're probably a little bit more familiar with this than any of us. This is a gang that it's not just a lark that the president's on. Like, this is like very serious stuff, and it's spreading.
It's a vicious gang. He's going after the bad hombres first, like he said he would. ICE has actually arrested over 3,000 gang members just in 6 months alone. That's almost as much as President Obama arrested in a whole year under his ICE administration. What they do is they go into these communities, a lot of times Hispanic communities, and they threaten teen Hispanics that don't speak a lot of English into coming into the gangs. They traffic in narcotics. They traffic in humans. They use machetes.
Yep.
They're very violent, and they're very gory, and that's what's drawing a lot of national media attention here. I think destroying MS-13 is pro-Hispanic because a lot of the victims are Hispanic.
Yeah.
So when the president comes out and makes a grand statement like this, and it forces Democrats to say, you know what, we're going to vote for more resources for ICE. We're going to vote for more immigration judges. We're going to vote for more ICE agents, because if we don't, there's going to be mayhem. We do a story on Waters World on Saturday night at 8 o'clock this week where there's a guy who was a Mexican national. He was deported 20 times.
Oh, my gosh.
And now he's back in Portland, which is a sanctuary city, and now he's charged with raping 2 women at knife point. But the local sheriff won't even say anything to ICE because they're a sanctuary city. Kate's Law would have protected these 2 rape victims. The Wall would have protected these 2 rape victims. So it's when you highlight victims like this, like what we just saw on Martha's show, it really resonates with the rest of the country to say there are victims, this is real, and we need to get tough.
Lisa, you want to say something?
Well, and what's interesting, too, is President Trump is actually doing what the Democratic Party does really well, which is giving a personal voice to issues.
Yep.
And he's lent a voice to victims of illegal immigrants, which is something that we never saw under President Obama. And look, President Trump said that he was going to crack down on illegal immigration, and he absolutely has done that. He did. His administration ran a 6-week operation. 1,300 gang members were detained, which is the most we have ever seen in history. And look, I grew up around the Northern Virginia area, and there's a big problem with MS-13 in that area. If you look at Montgomery County, Maryland, they've seen 16 gang-related homicides from MS-13 in just a 2-year period alone. So this is a big problem for people in the country. I'm certainly glad to see him cracking down on it.
So he said, Juan, that he would be the law and order president. And I think one of the other things he did today was basically tried to give the police there his sort of blessing to say, like, go after them and be tough. And some Democrats took offense to that when he said that he was okay with that.
Well, I mean, basically what he says is get rough with suspects. I don't know why the president of the United States would be saying that to the police. I mean, given we have a reality of a real problem on the streets between people and police getting a little bit out of hand, and I don't think it helps. You know, but I wanted to talk about what Jesse was saying. Jesse was suggesting, well, wait a second, the Latino community, in fact, feels threatened by MS-13, which is a fact, as you just heard from Lisa. Lisa and I both live in the D.C. area. We know this is a reality. But the problem, Jesse, is there's greater fear of mass deportation and families being broken apart and people picked up who are not involved in any crime, but just being swept up by this kind of anti-immigrant rhetoric that's coming from President Trump. And you see this, you know, it's like he's promoting fear of all illegal immigrants in order to justify it and to play to the political crowd that wants to blame illegal immigrants for every sin in the country. And one last point. I thought it was stunning today that you have Attorney General Sessions in El Salvador fighting MS-13, and he doesn't get one shout out, not one mention from the president when he's talking about fighting MS-13. Talk about a political signal.
That might have been an oversight, but you're right. That is obviously something that should have been mentioned. Greg, do you think that what President Trump is trying to do is just fulfill a campaign promise that says, I'm going to try to return this order, and MS-13 is his main target?
I want to respond to what Juan said. And this is a perfect example of the Trump presidency in this media atmosphere in a nutshell. In 6 weeks, they netted 14 illegals. Over 1,000 were gang members. That's a big deal. But what does Juan do? He focuses on the 2 lines about the police, or he talks about the fact that he didn't mention Sessions. So the media attention is always about the periphery issues, but there's a bigger issue, and I've always said this before with Donald Trump. The bigger issue obliterates the little issues. You don't have to like him. You don't have to like the fact that he forgets about things, or the fact that he doesn't see a child and doesn't shake the hand, and you think that's awful. You come up with all this stupid stuff, when in fact, if you look at the bigger issue matters. And this is my advice for Democrats. Listen, the fact is he took law enforcement, terror, border, wrapped it into this cocoon of national security, and he beat the pants off you because of this very issue. And what he did with law enforcement is he made it okay to appreciate law enforcement again. Most of America appreciated it from the first place. But now you can do it openly because we had a media for the past 6 years that painted the law enforcement as the problem. Police brutality was exaggerated. I believe it's exaggerated, and it's time. And now this pendulum is swinging back to the point where we can say we're proud of what you do.
Let me tell you, if you're black or brown in America, police brutality.
I saw that response coming.
And you know what else?
I look at statistics.
You know what else? When I like this. In fact, you sent me something that I was so impressed with, which was this podcast, and they had 2 people, a Trump supporter and a Trump opponent.
Sam Harris,
right.
Scott Adams.
And I was so taken because what you saw, the argument for Scott Adams was Trump manages to be persuasive by rolling things in sort of beyond the factual basis. But here, Greg, in this case, there's no question he's playing a fear card that appeals to people emotionally. You say, oh, those illegal immigrants.
No. Okay.
I fear MS-13 too, Juan.
Yeah.
And I think people that are getting their heads chopped off with machetes, we hear those guys also.
And when 75% of the illegal immigrants that they have detained have been convicted criminals of things like assault, homicide, rape, drug-related crimes.
But that's fine.
I think your argument falls a little flat.
But the reality is you have more to fear from people who are American citizens in terms of being killed.
That's
or
fine.
run over.
But you can hold 2 competing thoughts. You can dislike American criminals and dislike illegal immigrant criminals. What you're doing wrong, Juan, is you're conflating a dislike for illegal immigrants with immigrants. Trump isn't anti-immigrant. He's anti-illegal immigrant.
No.
There's a difference.
No, there is a difference, but not with Trump, because actually he's trying to cut back on all kinds of immigration, although he broke his own word the other day and issued more visas for seasonal workers.
You should like
there you go.
There you go. All right. The GOP's skinny Obamacare repeal effort failed overnight after John McCain stunned his party with a deciding no vote. So what now? We'll tell you next.
And Trump intends to sign the Russia sanctions bill that he reviewed, and it's now in final version. Meanwhile, it was a bleak morning for Republicans in D.C. Their latest attempt to repeal Obamacare failed overnight after John McCain cast the deciding no vote. That killed his party's effort. Here was the president's reaction earlier.
They should have approved health care last night, but you can't have everything. Boy, oh boy. They've been working on that one for 7 years. Can you believe that? The swamp. But we'll get it done. We're going to get it done. You know, I said from the beginning, let Obamacare implode and then do it. I turned out to be right. Let Obamacare implode.
Wow. So, Jesse, looking forward, Tom Price, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, has some options. He could, in fact, sabotage it. He could do things like not promote further enrollment of people. He could pull some of the subsidies. He could not enforce the mandate for individuals. Is that the way to go? Do you agree?
Or Trump could fire Price.
Oh, no.
That's always a possibility. He actually threatened to do it the other day. I think he was kidding, but who knows anymore. I think both parties failed the American people. The Democrats failed them by jacking up premiums, and the Republicans failed by not lowering them. There's a few lessons here. Republicans don't have the policy chops that they've been bragging about for all these years. They had 7 years to come up with a replacement, and I don't even know if anything they put out there actually lowered premiums.
No.
Also, there's a lot of Republicans that are now so-called Republicans. They chose big government over small government. And once you hook a lot of these senators on federal funding, it's very hard to take it away. Mitch McConnell, not the master of the Senate that everybody thought he would be. Pence wasn't able to twist McCain's arm. Speaking of McCain, McCain, I believe, put the interests of his own constituents, I guess, down here, and sacrificed it against the altar of this mysterious bipartisanship agreement that never even existed. Premiums are out of control in Arizona, and he voted against repealing Obamacare. It doesn't make any sense to me. The only thing you can do now at this point, term limits. Term limits.
You're mad at your Republicans. Let me just stick with the Republicans for a second, Dana, because one of the dynamics that took place was McCain had a promise from Speaker Paul Ryan that, in fact, if this bill was passed, they would negotiate. McCain said that's not enough. In fact, 10 senators asked Ryan for a promise that they would negotiate.
And Ryan gave them that promise. This is the thing I don't understand, is like, why not at least then, if you voted on the motion to proceed, which he did, why not then vote on the motion to get it into conference? If in conference you don't like it, then you can vote against it. I think stopping the process then didn't make a lot of sense. What's interesting to me, and maybe one bright spot for Republicans in this, is that McCain let his choice be known early on in the process, so it was clear it was going to go down. And yet only all the rest of the Republicans stuck with McConnell to vote with it. So there is some semblance of unity there. In addition, I would say that this just happened right before we came to air. Former Speaker Pelosi, the minority leader, has sent a letter to the Majority Leader McConnell and Speaker Ryan and said, we, the Democrats, are willing to work with you on the version that you had put forward, the BCRA. I can't remember what that stands for, Better Care Restoration. So actually, the Democrats were willing to come to the table at the time, and they didn't, and now they want to do it. And the thing is, it's not possible, Jesse, I don't think, to move on and talk about something else anymore, because every decision going forward has some part of Obamacare in it. When they talk about the debt ceiling, when they talk about tax reform, any sort of budget issue, Obamacare is
stuck with
stuck.
this.
It is inside.
So, Greg, just quickly, one of the big changes that we've seen during this period is that the polls now have most Americans supporting Obamacare, and this includes most Republicans. It's kind of surprising.
Fake polls.
No, it's not. It's seen as a free thing, and it's hard to take a free thing away. Look, I would have voted no on this just by the name. Skinny repealed. There's nothing good in life that begins with the word skinny.
Oh, I disagree.
Skinny jeans. What?
Skinny margaritas. It's all good.
You proved my point. Skinny margarita is the worst thing on the planet. Look, this should have been a morbidly obese repeal. It should have been a peel that looks terrible in a bikini. It should be a repeal that hangs over your belt. It should have had something. No, it should have had something. It should have had something of substance. And I think let me finish, because I've been gone for a week, so give me a chance here. I think McCain might have given some people cover for doing this, because I think a lot of people didn't like this, and they were too scared to say it, so he gave them some cover. Obamacare is a big bucket of manure, and all this was a spoon that stirred it around a little bit. And then you have the Democrats. It was, what, 2% change in this bill? It was so small what they were affecting. They still act like you were committing murder. Yep. And this is an education for young Americans who aren't sure what party you belong to or what side you're on, if you have to choose a side. This is an education. If you touch an entitlement, even slightly touch it, you are worse than ISIS and Hitler combined. They will call you a murderer. They will call you evil. And by the way, you know the difference between this and the passage of Obamacare? People like something free. They like it's given. They also planned it because they knew they were going to win. There was no plan in place for this because no one had faith that Trump was going to win. So they didn't take the 7 months. That would have been like last year writing a book called Why Trump Won, but instead writing a book that says why Hillary's going to be president.
But to Greg's point, how skinny could this possibly be, right? I mean, but look, this is an embarrassment for the Republican Party. They've been begging the American people to allow them the opportunity to govern, and they've proven that they can't govern. They could have gotten this done on a party line basis, cannot do that. But the reaction from the Democratic Party is gross. They have egg on their face as well. Senator Chuck Schumer said himself in 2014 that it was a mistake for the Democratic Party to pass Obamacare. They should have focused on issues that help the middle class. And now Americans are stuck. They're trapped with a health care system that doesn't work. We have an estimated 44% of counties are going to have 0 to no insurers. By 2018, we've seen premiums increase on average by 105% since 2013. So everyone has egg on their face.
And that's high in cholesterol.
And it's
Not good for Obamacare.
It's not skinny. Well, unless it's egg whites, but we're talking.
You do not drink
we're talking
skinny
a yolk.
margaritas. That is such a
I
lie.
do. Why do you not believe that?
Because it's
delicious.
disgusting.
No, they're not.
Let me just say, I think there's obviously room for Republicans and Democrats to work on the health care plan to get the best possible plan for Americans. Rather
Yeah,
than
not
going
happening.
That's never happening.
Please, yeah.
Anyway, Republicans calling for a new special counsel, but not to replace Robert Mueller. You got to hear this. Details straight ahead.
Well, Robert Mueller continues to investigate members of the Trump team, their possible ties to Russia. Republicans are calling for a second special counsel to look into Hillary Clinton and any mishandling of her email investigation by Jim Comey and Loretta Lynch. Greg, what do you think?
I think this is a great test for media bias. If you're frothing at the mouth over investigating Trump, but not here, you might be biased. If you look, even look at the Russian piece, you look at this latest stuff, maybe Fusion acting on behalf of HR in connection with Russia to undermine Trump. So Russia's playing both sides, apparently. But if the media only focuses on one side, not just the other one, you have to ask yourself, and you know the answer, because your side lost. So you're going after them.
Jesse, what do you think?
The GOP's learned to fight fire with fire. They're saying if you're going to investigate us, we'll investigate you. Let's see who's more guilty. My money's on the Democrats. It's not just that they want this investigated. Loretta Lynch, they want investigated. The immunity deals given to the Clinton associates, the Clinton Foundation, Clinton's dealings with Ukraine, the DNC server, illegal surveillance, the fake dossier, illegal leaks and unmasking, and the Comey leaks. There's a whole host of things that they can look into. You know what? There's a lot of meat on that bone, and people are hungry.
Dan, is this a good idea?
I guess. I mean, but I think one of the problems is with all the things that Jesse just listed, it looks just so scatterbrained and doesn't look focused. So pick
or it looks
pick the
really scrumptious.
It is not a skinny
Jesse
request.
really is hungry
That's
tonight.
not a skinny request.
You mentioned that earlier. So one, if the Democratic Party is concerned about obstruction of justice, wouldn't Loretta Lynch be a good place to look?
No, this is all settled. And this is the funny thing. I mean, this is obviously a distraction and, payback and an eye for an eye, and we can have an investigation too. There's a serious investigation that is absolutely bogging down the Trump White House. And so you get some Freedom Caucus guys who say, oh, we got an idea. Let's go after them. That's out of the Trump playbook. But I think most Americans think, boy, this is just petty and small.
But you don't think the former Attorney General instructing the FBI director to use the word matter instead of investigation is not cause for concern?
I think this is like comparing a mass murder to a pimple.
I don't know about that. But all right, well, stay right there because Facebook Friday is coming up next.
Come on and get down on if you really want it. Get down on it. You gotta feel it. Coming back from
That's called rap music, Dana.
Thanks.
It's the original country music. All right, Facebook Friday. Let's get started. This is Kathy R. Question 1. When was your first TV appearance on TV? Redundant. And how nervous were you? Juan.
You're being mean to me because I hate this. But I will say this. I think I was playing basketball upstate New York, and we won a big championship type thing.
So we interviewed after?
Yeah, they had the whole team kind of jumping
Oh,
up.
that's kind of exciting. Yeah. What about you, Jesse?
They caught up with me at a shoe store in Philly during the Milli Vanilli scandal and asked me what I thought about it. And then that night, they put my face underneath an old woman's voice.
Oh,
As
wow.
like a spoof. So I was spoofed the first time I was ever on television.
And that
Makes
affected
sense.
you.
That was great.
What about you, Lisa?
So I was working on a Senate race out of Wisconsin and was asked to do the spin room. I'd never done TV before. I made sure the campaign manager knew that I hadn't done TV before. I gave him an out, ended up doing it and really enjoyed it. And now I'm doing this. So.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
College, I worked for the public television station, PBS affiliate in Pueblo, Colorado, that served Pueblo, Colorado Springs and the Western Slope. And it was for a show called Capital Journal.
Nice. That's very wonky.
Very Dana.
I was the original Chuck in Happy Days.
Is that right?
Didn't know that, did you know? I can't remember. I was drunk on my first time. I was always drinking when I was doing
Did
TV.
it really happen?
Are you drunk
or-
now?
Yeah. No, I'm just tired. Question 2. This is from Donna P. What is the one thing you've always wanted to do but haven't? And why haven't you, Dana?
The one thing.
Keep it clean.
One thing. I don't know.
Come on.
Besides host the Greg Gutfeld show?
Yeah, never been asked.
Ooh.
But he doesn't take time off. You know, he'd prefer Tom Schiller.
Oh, wow.
I feel like it's getting kind of hot.
Yeah, really.
I don't know. I mean, I've never been to Venice.
There you go. You've never been to Venice.
I mean, I don't
That's a
really
country
wanna go.
music song, I believe.
Been to Venice.
At Venice Beach, California. Jesse.
I want to go to South America,
Ooh, very nice.
and I never want to come back.
We could,
On a prearranged vacation.
just do something on this show that will make sure you go away.
This is out of control tonight. This is
Juan, anything you haven't done that you want to
Actually,
do?
it's something I've done, but I like to take my family on a safari. I hear they're just, you know, like you can take
done
your
that.
family.
They're very cool.
And it's very cool. Dana, you've gone with your family?
Safaris.
Yes, I did.
great.
I don't like safaris. I don't want to be around animals. Lisa?
I think I'd want to go skydiving. I
Oh.
recently went indoor skydiving, and so I'm kind of on this kick now, and I want to
Wait a
try
minute,
outdoor
What is
skydiving.
indoor skydiving?
It's just like air blowing you up. It's not very scary.
Oh, yeah.
but-
Cool, though.
I thought about there's nothing that I want to do because I don't like anything. So that's like I have no desire. And everything that everybody mentions it involves some kind of elevated risk. If I could, I would just stay in my apartment like an agoraphobic and eat the same cheese sandwich every day until I die under the weight of the cheese sandwich wrappers. And then one of you has to come and get me because I haven't shown up at work and the whole place smells.
I nominate Jesse.
Yes.
You must have been fun on vacation.
Oh, I was
I feel like
great.
it could be a
Believe me.
Subway ad in the works.
I'm never going away again. One more thing is up next.
It's time now for one more thing, Greg.
All right, tomorrow night, 10 p.m., got a great show. Saturday, 10 p.m., it's going to be a lot of stuff. But as you know, I went away, a lot of stuff. As you know, I went away, and it is time for Greg's Vacation Pictures. Yeah, you are going to love this. I went to Greece and to Italy. Here's my first picture here. I don't know if you can tell. Apparently, it's my foot. I took my camera phone. I was walking, and that's my foot. I think I'm walking to the terminal. Let's go to my next picture. Just sitting there when it's a picture of my thigh. I was waiting at the gate. And then here, I was trying to take a picture of a building, but I forgot to put the reverse on selfie mode. So it's just a picture of me.
Those are
Look
great.
happy.
Yeah,
You got to take some lessons from Juan on that.
yeah, that was the point.
All right, Dana.
All right, I've got a great one I saved for you. Chicago firefighter Kirkland Flowers. He found a creative way to give back to his community. He noticed that kids near the Engine 16 firehouse were in Chicago, they're skipping class. And he's like, why are you skipping class? I want you to stay in school. So he started a thing called Fitch, Firefighters, Paramedics in the Community Helping. Basically, he said, if you bring your good report cards in, I'm going to give you a bicycle. And
Wow.
all of a sudden, they all start coming in, and attendance increased 45%, and within the year, it went up to 92% from an initial 20%. So this guy has done amazing work. Flowers retired from the police department last month, and they are looking to pass a torch and searching for someone to take over the bike program he's nurtured and grown over the years. So if you have anyone in mind,
That's an
need
excellent
you.
program.
Really?
Juan Williams.
Sad news tonight. British baby Charlie Gard, whose legal battle captured world attention, passed away today, only a week before his first birthday. Little Charlie was diagnosed with a rare genetic illness. He couldn't breathe on his own, couldn't see, couldn't move. British medical system said there was no hope, but his parents held out hope for a cure, even tried to bring him here to the U.S. at one point. His battle became a symbol for the ethical debate on right to life and rights of patients and doctors to end life. This is tough stuff. Pope Francis tweeted today, I entrust little Charlie to the Father and pray for his parents and all those who loved him.
Oh, poor baby Charlie. All right, I'm up next. So Waters World wanted to know, do people know anything about Russia or Putin or Trump? I went out to the streets to find out. Do you believe that Russia interfered in the election to help Trump?
I do.
How did they do that?
I have no idea.
I have some philosophy that
resign.
Is that your girlfriend?
they're all my girlfriends.
Oh, lucky you.
Excuse me, is there room for two more lovers in the hot tub?
All right, so you'll see the full thing Saturday night at 8 o'clock Eastern.
Nice tease.
Lisa Booth.
Well, a touching and emotional moment out of Muskegon, Michigan, where hundreds of people showed their final respects to Sina, a Marine veteran's bomb dog. Corporal Jeff DeYoung served alongside Sina in Afghanistan and adopted her shortly after. He credits her with helping him through his post-traumatic stress disorder after serving, and it really underscores the connection between service members and the animals that serve alongside of them.
Did you get Dana's permission to
Yes,
do a
she
dog
did.
one more thing? 'Cause
So I'm on the board of Companions for Heroes, and they do this type of thing and helping these guys. And it actually really does work. So if there's lots of these organizations, if you can support them, because if you match up a rescue dog or a dog that is been fully trained to help them, you can save a lot of lives and bring a lot of joy, and that was sweet.
But do you feel a little upstaged that
No,
she did a really...
no, I am proud of her, and I'm glad that it wasn't like some bobcat eating a dog.
Gee, some people have
I'm glad
a long
that was a
memory.
good one.
Yes.
We do. Upset about the Gutfeld show now this. All right, set your DVRs, never miss an episode of The Five. Have a great weekend, everybody. Hannity up next.